Welcome. My name is Tracy White. I am a Reiki master and sound therapist and the creator of Body Balance Activation. And with me, I have one of my BBA facilitators, Claire Beckman, and we're going to have a conversation today about where to from here. Because we can all agree that the world has gone mad. So, where to from here? A little while ago, the world seemed normal and something that we could get grip on and understand, and now it is gone mad.
A little bit, yeah.
A little bit gone mad. Right, so where to from here? What do we do now? So I think energy healing is one of the things that is the most relevant at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Our energy is thoughts and emotions. Your thoughts and your emotions make up your energy, and you will discover that depending on what your thoughts and emotions are will depend on whether you have any pain and discomfort in your physical body. So the most important thing at the moment is to clean up our energy. Clean up our energy from all the fear and from all the mass consciousness stuff that we are downloading all the time. And so we do that with energy healing in general. It doesn't really matter what you do as far as energy healing goes, because it all works to a certain degree. But it is important that we do it at this point.
When you talk about mass consciousness, what do you mean?
Okay, so mass consciousness from a BBA perspective or body balance activation perspective is the world. It's the world mind, the mass consciousness of the planet, of your community, of your family, it's whenever there is more than one mind at play in any one moment. Because we get carried away. You just have to look at a peaceful protest becoming a riot because of the group mind that changes and the heightened emotion of those people that are all together in that environment. And it can very quickly change to something else because of the mass consciousness of the group. So at the moment with the world gone mad, the mass consciousness is a lot about fear and about uncertainty and about conspiracy theories and what is being hidden from us, and we don't know what we are allowed to do, what we're not allowed to do, and all we know is that we've been told that if you catch the virus it's going to kill you. And so we have that huge fear that we live with at the moment, and it is hugely damaging to our energy and to our lives.
And we're obviously plugging into this every time we look at social media, the newspaper, the news, and then we're taking on all the stuff.
Absolutely. I notice myself when I'm looking at social media, and it's just really a case of catching up with what has happened in the previous day, but always something manages to get onto my feed that is part of this conspiracy theory or part of the lockdown and the end the lockdown and all of this type of stuff. And I know just the first thing that happens is my abdomen, my lower stomach area starts to churn, and I start feeling like I have no power, and my power gets lost in that moment, and I have to stop myself and try and reclaim my power and say, this is not my world, and put it down. Not easy to do. Really is not easy to do.
But it is a choice we make.
It is a choice
it's a choice we can make consciously if we choose to.
Absolutely.
To not be
choice
a part
we
of
can
it.
make consciously. But for those people who struggle with making that choice consciously or struggle with carrying it through, it is one of the levels that we deal with BBA, is that collective consciousness disconnect. So we can disconnect you from collective consciousness for about 48 to 72 hours, and then you plug back in again. But within that time, you've managed to work out what your own perspective and your own power is in your life. And then when you plug back in, you are plugging in from a more empowered place and rather from a disempowered place. And then mass consciousness has a different effect on you.
Okay.
So that's one of the useful things that we can do with our BBA sessions.
And BBA, can it be practiced long distance? Because obviously there's a lot of fear at the moment about close contact with people. And can you go back to, and it's one of the things that are probably not going to return to normal, is how we operate. How does BBA work long distance?
We can do BBA at any distance. It is programmed to allow for that. So we have our level 5, which is a quantum level, which allows us to bridge the distance between us. I have worked on people overseas in Australia and in New York, and also in Peru and the UK, among other areas. And it's always been extremely interesting. I like to keep contact with the person while we're working, so we do it through either Google Meet or Zoom or one of those places. So they can hear me, so they hear all the instructions that are being given to their body. And in most of these sessions, towards the end of the session, I will say to them, right, at the end we say we are complete. And then I check in with them and there's no answer, and I check in with them and there's no answer, and I sort of wait a bit. And usually we set up at the beginning of the session that at the end of the session, if there is no response from the person, I disconnect the call. And then once they've woken up, then they reconnect with me and then we can have a chat. Because in most cases, BBA will anesthetize its recipient, which is very handy when you are receiving your upgrades and your downloads, so that your conscious mind gets out of the way, so that things can shift and change in the body and in your energy.
So you sort of clutch out.
You clutch out, big time. It's a big clutch out. And you wake up feeling like you've slept for a week. It's really good. You know this. Yes. Good.
What do you think the biggest mental and emotional factors are? We've touched on fear. Going forward, that's going to affect people in the new world, and how can BBA help with that?
Well, I think one of the things that I'm seeing right now is people don't trust each other. There is huge lack of trust in anybody else. So there's fear for everyone else, because anyone can kill you, because anyone can be carrying the virus. I see recently it's been proven that asymptomatic people can't pass the virus on, and so that masks are redundant and we really shouldn't even be wearing them. And I do believe that if social distancing, or rather if we call it physical distancing, if that carries on, we're going to see a huge rise in depression and anxiety, and this connection. People, we are human beings, we need to connect with each other. I still, in the sessions that I have been doing one-on-one recently, my client will arrive, mask on, tell them to get it off. Please take that mask off. It's not doing you any good. There is nothing here. This is a completely free zone. And I make sure I give them a hug. And I can't tell you how many people have collapsed in tears and have wept when I give them a hug. Because we haven't hugged.
No.
We haven't held each other. And that's what we need to do. I mean, that is, it gets oxytocin and all sorts of stuff going in your body. And it's all these life-affirming emotions that come up when you hug, and people have not been hugged. And I think it's terrible. It's one of those things that does need to change going forward. You need to be hugged and held by somebody who's not necessarily a family member. And for you to be acknowledged physically and to be acknowledged on that spiritual level, and your hug needs to be more than 20 seconds. And heart to heart, breast to breast. Proper connection hug. And we need to do that a lot.
So who can have BBA?
Usually my answer to that is anybody with a pulse. If you are breathing and if you are living, you can have BBA and it will be relevant to your life. So one of the things that we do with BBA is we set an intention at the beginning of the session. And to set the intention, we find out from you what is going on in your life at the moment, if there's anything that you're unhappy with, what you would like to change. And then we work from there. So we set an intention in the positive, and we're very careful about how we set the intention, because the universe has a huge sense of humor. And you could be asking for one thing and get something entirely in line with what you've asked for, but that has absolutely no relevance to where you were wanting to go in the first place. So intention is very important, to set an intention for the session. It doesn't mean that there is anything wrong with the person if the physical body needs to be shifted. It may mean that in order to reach that intention, we have to shift some of the energy that they have stored physically. As I said earlier, your thoughts and your emotions make up your energy, and depending on where your thoughts and your emotions will depend, or depending on where they are at the moment, will depend on whether you have any discomfort or disease in the body. So your thoughts and emotion, that the excess charges that you can have from anger or fear or worry can be held physically in the physical body, and then those places will need to be shifted and cleared in order for that intention then to come about. It's quite interesting how often we see such an immediate difference in the person after their session. Usually it's they sit up and one of the first things, you say to you, how are you feeling? And I feel different. And sometimes they can't actually put their finger on it exactly what the difference is, but there is a difference, and there is always a difference. So it is, and it's an immediate feeling of there's being something different. And then we give them a week to live this, to live it through, and they come back for a follow-up usually. BBA is done best in groups of 2 sessions.
Okay.
So that the first session we can set a lovely big intention, and the second session we can tweak for wherever it hasn't shown up in the person's life. We can tweak it nicely for them.
A lot of people, when they talk about energy, they talk about energy healing as if you're healing a wound, taking stitches and stitching something up. And yet BBA is about connection more than taking stitches to a wound.
All right, so the difference between this modality, I prefer to call it a life wellness modality than a healing modality, and other modalities out there, is the other modalities, it tends to put a bit of responsibility on the person who is doing the session. So your healer is the Reiki person or the person who's actually applying the session. Whereas in this particular case, it is all about connection and your levels of connection and disconnection. So a disconnection would be if you're in mid-fury or fear or anger or worry, that sort of thing will disconnect you from your stream of well-being. And what we want to do is we want to reconnect you with that. And so what we do is we plug you into your own stream, so that what you are streaming into yourself is yourself. And you are just getting more and more of yourself. And what we mean by yourself is at your natural essence, before it comes through your physical filters, you are love and well-being. And that is who you are on a spiritual level. And we want to connect you more with that. So that is what you're streaming to yourself. And with that comes the healing of something that you've not been able to forgive for the last 20 years, or a thought pattern or belief that you've had about a certain person that sort of gets osmosisly healed. So yes, it's about connection to your soul self, because you are live, you are broadcasting, you are live streaming yourself into your life at all time. And what we are going through in this world is all this contract and illusion that we've put in place about what it is that we want to experience while we are here. But at your essence, you are love and well-being. You are not fear. You are not worry and anxiety and a sheep that just follows. You are a creative and amazingly loving being. We want to find you. We want to find you in there somewhere and reconnect you with that.
So I had a question and I lost it. Sorry, I was listening to you.
Just edit that.
I was listening and I just,
and then I ran out.
I had a question and then just,
Okay.
Let me just go back.
We can edit.
Connection. Okay, so then obviously as we go through life, worry happens, fear happens, trauma happens, some drama happens, and that all starts determining our story that we present. So BBA allows us to then create a different story by getting us to disconnect from the drama and the trauma and the worry.
Yes. There is a misconception about trauma, that it has to be something that you sustain in an accident, like a physical trauma, like you break a leg, then you have a trauma. A paper cut can be a trauma. It depends on the level of sensitivity of the person who is experiencing that trauma. So somebody who has lived through a parent's divorce might feel that that was hugely traumatic in their life, and somebody else who's lived through their parent's divorce may feel actually it's the best thing that's ever happened. So you cannot ever look at one person's life circumstances and say that person's life was traumatic and that person's life wasn't traumatic. The trauma is judged from the person who has lived it.
Very individual.
It's a very individual process. So when we're talking about trauma, there is that very individual process. So BBA is, even though it is such a structured and such a one-size-fits-all, it is a one-size-fits-all because you are downloading your own energy that is going to rectify and fill and heal all of those things that have happened to you personally. It's your own updates, your own upgrades, your own operating system update. And then the thing is that it eases some of the charge that has been sitting there. It helps to recharge certain levels of your battery and certain places where you have lost the ability to feel or lost the ability to be cognizant of things that have happened. It can in some cases bring back memories of stuff, but it's usually memories in a way that it happened to somebody else. So the emotion that comes with it is, oh, I remember this thing, but the charge that normally would set you off is not there anymore.
So there's not that attachment.
There's not that attachment to it. One of the things that we do in BBA is we reformat the limbic system. And your limbic system is where you process emotion and where you process thought and memory. And from that reformatted place, when you are faced with any type of experience that is in any way similar to what you have experienced before, so another trauma that would normally have triggered the memory of what you had before, it now doesn't trigger that anymore. It is blank. It gives you the opportunity to choose a new way to be rather than to live by reaction. So it's your default settings get shifted. Just recently I had a chat with a friend of mine who I gifted her with a BBA sessions, first time she's ever had one. And she said her ex-husband really pushes her buttons. But in that, about 2 days after her session, ex-husband pushing buttons yet again. And she stopped and looked at him and really had this understanding that actually he was the one that was in full reaction and she wasn't. And she owned her stuff and deflected his stuff and really realized that what was going on had nothing to do with her. It had everything to do with him. And she left that whole situation completely unaffected. And got on the phone to me straight away and said, guess what's just happened? Yay! Yeah. So yes, that is one of the things that we have great success with BBA is a change in the way that you react to things. A change in the way that a pushing of your buttons or a re-triggering of a trauma, it just doesn't happen anymore. In about 80% of those cases, it never happens again. It is a change that stays. So that is also one of the benefits of BBA. Our changes seem to be very long term. Of course, you always have that choice that you can take something back if you want to. So if you've lived with a non-forgiveness issue and now suddenly you felt different about it and you see it from a different perspective and it's organic forgiveness. And to me, that's the best way of having a forgiveness, is for it to be an organic thing. But you can always then go, no, but that was a wrong done to me, and you can always take it back.
But BBA is very much about allowing,
Yes.
and you've got to be prepared to let your stuff go.
You have to be prepared to let your stuff go, but also in another case, people don't realize that they're letting their stuff go. Healing is a very interesting thing. You break your arm, you have it set, and the tissues heal, the bones join together and everything heals up. But every time there's a cold snap, you will feel it in that break. So that is not true healing. That is a healing of a break so that you can then utilize that arm again or leg or whatever. With BBA, it takes it one step before that. It takes it to before the break happened. So the healing is as if it never occurred. And that is a blessing and a disaster for us because the person doesn't actually realize how much BBA has helped them. because they don't remember that they had the injury to start with. I had a lady come years ago who was another healer and who had had a very bad experience with a friend of hers, and she felt betrayed, and she said to me, I think I'm going to need about 10 sessions. I think we need to book 10 sessions. I said, no, well, let's book out 2 for now and we'll see where we go from there. It turned out we had 3 sessions, and on the 3rd session I reminded her of what she came for, and she was absolutely shocked that she ever felt that way. And it's one of the things that happens. People become shocked at why they came for a BBA session in the first place, because it doesn't exist for them anymore. But it is one of the reasons that we like to have a follow-up or even a 3rd session. 2 sessions usually, sometimes a 3rd session, so we can help them to see, this is why you came. Is it still relevant in your life at the moment? Most of the time it's not relevant anymore. They've shifted it.
In the beginning, you mentioned that BBA is for everyone.
Yes.
And something I have found through my experience with energy healing and the various types is that various things don't always work for everybody.
Yes.
They're not suitable for various reasons. And BBA?
BBA, because you are being plugged into your own stream of energy and you're downloading in essence yourself, all of the sessions are self-regulated, which means your self-receptors that are on your cells of your body will regulate how much energy your physical self receives. It also will determine and regulate what is missing from your energy and then retrieve it from your own stream. So I am not in control of your session. In a lot of cases, I don't even know what experiences you've had in your session. You will sit up at the end and go, oh wow, that was absolutely amazing. This is what I experienced. And I'll go, really? And so the session is completely self-regulated. If there isn't me trying to force something on you, it is always your body which is in complete control of the whole session and will take only and exactly what it needs. So in that way, BBA is relevant to anybody, anyone with a pulse.
People interested in learning to become a BBA facilitator. Obviously, pre-lockdown, you used to give courses. Have you made any adjustments to how you run your courses?
Yes, I have. During our lockdown, I have recorded everything for it to be available as online classes, but it would still require a one-on-one with me. So what we would do is we would still have our course dates. So we would start on a specific date, and whoever is signed up for the course, we would get together and have a chat over Zoom or Google Meet. And we would chat about the course, what to expect, about the subject matter that we'd be covering on that particular day. Then they would get some videos to watch and things to follow and practice, and ways to do it without, for them to do it on their own, without a body. And then at the end of the day or the next morning, we get together again and we chat a bit about what they've learned from there to make sure that they're keeping up with it. It's not difficult, but it's complicated. So in order for them to be well versed in each of the levels, because we teach all levels over 4 or 5 days, so depending on how well it is going with that particular class and how many questions we have and how how they're interacting will depend on whether it'll be a 4-day course or a 5-day course. But it can be done anywhere in the world, because now we have it all online. Everything is online, and just requires a little bit of extra instruction. And obviously it's better to be able to do it as twos. So if anybody out there from anywhere in the world, yourself and a friend, want to learn it, there will be a discount for the 2 of you together. And when you are doing it together, you will get the most out of it, because then you will be giving and receiving sessions to each other through the training, and you will get that shift, that because it's every day you'll be receiving a session, and by day 5 you would have gone through all 5 levels. So that shift will be really, really profound and pronounced for you as a facilitator and also as the client. In South Africa, I'm still offering one-on-one courses or even small groups.
Okay.
As soon as the lockdown is over, to the degree that we can work, then we will be moving forward again with personal training.
That's great. So how can people get in touch with you? Do you have a website, email?
Okay, yes, I do. I actually have two websites. One is tracywhite.co.za and the other one is bodybalanceactivation.co.za. And they can get in touch with me through the website. There's a contact me place on the website. And they can find out a whole lot more details on BBA on both of those websites. And yes, and just get in touch with me and let me know. And we can start courses straight away. Or if people are wanting to receive a session, then also just get in contact with me. At the end of this video, I will put up my email address for people to be able to get hold of me to arrange session work, and also if they're wanting to learn how to do this.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you very much.